go ahead and do that.
Okay. Let me see what happened to my stuff. It's
Thanks,
not
Jen.
staying open. It says it is stopped. So I might not be able to do that. Beth, go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do my greeting.
Well, Beth can go ahead and do hers because she's got one she's sharing.
Okay.
Sharing's not working for me for some reason.
Well, just a second. I've got it here. There we go. Okay. The summit, this huge event that we are doing with Right to Know next end of March into April. We are so excited about it, and we have been working very, very hard to put together a really, really awesome event. You are going to want to get in on the early bird tickets. The first 100 tickets are $279, and after that, the price will go up. Untanglingourroots.org, a fabulous website has been built for us, and right from there, you can register, and you can also book your hotel and see the pictures of all the presenters, and it's just going to be a fabulous thing that you are not going to want to miss.
Because we're talking what, over 60 different
Over
presenters?
60 presenters, yeah.
And lots of other really unique stuff. I'm going to just drop the links in to register for these programs. But of course, we have Happy Hour. We also have First Families, Birth Parents Journeying Together support group that meets on Thursday, November 10th. Adoptee Path to Recovery, a virtual support group. That next meeting is Tuesday, November 15th. Still working on next week's Happy Hour. We had Macy, and then she had a death in her family. So she is actually, if you registered, that has been transferred to November 18th. And then on November 22nd, we have Putting Yourself Together After Reunion with Dr. Joyce McGuire Pavo. So I'll drop the link in there if anybody's interested in registering.
Okay, great. Anything else for the two of you?
Nope. I'm going to try this again and see if it works.
Okay.
My sharing's not working.
It happens.
Oh, it opens and it closes. Beth, do you have the welcome screen? I don't know what's going on. Welcome to technical difficulties. And Marcie's frozen. There she is.
I think it's up.
Are you back, Marcie?
I'm back.
Okay, there. Can you see that?
Yeah, just remain on mute tonight, guys. Raise your hand if you got a virtual question. The first portion of this will be recorded, and then we'll open it up to Q&A at 8 o'clock. So we will post that link on our private Happy Hour group on Facebook. Please note too, if you're experiencing a serious mental health event or suicidal thought, please contact a licensed professional or the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, which is now, the number has changed. We need to make a note of that, Jen.
We have it. I already have it changed. Just won't let me share. It is.
I need the new graphic, but yes, is it 988, guys?
Yes.
The new number. Okay.
Okay. And we did things a little different tonight, so I'm still going ahead because we do have some new people here this evening, and go ahead and welcome everyone once again to another episode of Adoption Happy Hour, brought to you by NAAP. We are the National Association of Adoptees and Parents, where it is our mission to unify the adoption community by elevating our diverse voices, by promoting dialogue, understanding, and healing through education, awareness, and connections. I'm Marcie Keithley, board president, and your host for this evening, along with Jennifer Falsing and Beth Story, who are both board members as well. So we're honored that so many of you have joined us this Friday night. We've been doing this going on, well, over 2.5 years, every Friday night, excluding a few holidays. So we're just really excited to bring all of you to this safe space and talk about adoption. So I'm really excited tonight because my dear friends, Linda and Louise, are here with us as our spotlight guests. We thought we'd kick the month off talking about reunion. So I know they have been actually probably since the very beginning of Happy Hour, they have been consistently attending Happy Hours for quite some time. they're going to share all their stories and how we all met and how this came to be. But it's just really exciting to when we can have a first mom and an adoptee together and talk about their individual journeys as well as their reunion and where they are today. So everybody, this is, for those of you that don't know, this is Louise O'Corey, and we have Linda Revelette. Got it right. Okay, so we're going to kick it. Welcome, guys. It's so good to have you here.
So glad to be here, NAAP. Wonderful organization. You guys, Marcie and Jen and Beth and everyone on the board, fabulous. We love you and we're so grateful to be here. Cannot believe we were asked to be here. Marcie dropped an email Monday morning and didn't have anyone for Friday. So she was scraping the barrel when she got us guys, but we're going to do what we can do. I do feel very intimidated following Candace last week, who did such a wonderful program with her beautiful book. I hope everyone got out and ordered it. We have 2 copies coming our way very soon, but very grateful to hear her speak and her style. And my style will not be as calm and as soothing. I have a loose cannon, as Marcie knows. So,
well, yeah, so let's start off, Linda. Let's start off with you and just tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from. And
I grew up mostly around outside of Detroit. Had a younger brother by 4 years, parents who did not do the best that they could, emotionally distant, emotionally and physically abusive, rough house. Had animals and books as my companions. No adults, no grandparents, no aunts and uncles, no cousins, no mentors. No, it was just me, my animals, and my books. And grew up lonely and quiet. It's okay. So I did find myself pregnant the spring after my senior year. Went to, talk to the person that we had created, had helped create this lovely person. And I couldn't go to my folks because of that house being the way it was. And he said that we could go to Massachusetts, where his folks had just moved, and they would help us make a decision of what we should do. So I went, we drove there fully and, planning on trying to figure out what we were going to do. Unbeknownst to me, they had already made plans. They had already talked to a priest and already figured out that I was going to give that baby away, and there was no other choice. So I lived with them for a while. They were alcoholic. It was mostly okay, but as you can imagine, it was difficult, several difficult months. Coercion by the Catholic social services, by the folks that were there. There was only one person who actually sent a handout to me to possibly was, believe it or not, my gynecologist obstetrician who was from Haiti. And he said, a baby should be with their mother. They should not be separated. And that was the only adult in that world that even brought that up. Everyone else had already made the decision, and this is the way it was going to be. And I had no choice. At the very end, right up to the point, right before I delivered her, my father did reach out and said, bring her here. When you have a child, bring them here. And then I realized I had to, the horrible childhood that I had, I did not want to subject my child to that. I knew I was broken, and I did not want to have my daughter be as broken as I was. So I went with the coercion, and I went with what had been planned, and I lost my daughter to adoption. As soon as that happened, I was asked to get out. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. From Catholic social services, no support, no counseling, no nothing. You have the baby, get out. Same with the family. Get the baby, get out. Took a train home, went back to my folks. more abuse, more just horror of, and as soon as I got a job and got some money, I blew out. I was out. We're talking, I was 18 at this point. 5 months later, her father came back into my life. And at that point, I was so broken, and I had not told anyone what I had been through. I had not shared anything. And the only people that knew belittled me, made me feel like a terrible person. Even worse and worse every time they spoke to me. So I was so broken. I stayed with that person. And believe it or not, a year later, we were married. We had 2 more children, and my children are here today. They are supporting me, and I kiss them. Very grateful that they're here. And they saved my life, because after I lost her, I didn't care whether I lived or died. In fact, it would have been a blessing if a truck had run me over, because I was so broken and lost. When I waited several years to have my next child, Olivia, and she saved my life, because I knew I needed to take care of myself so that I could take care of her. So I had gained 70 pounds between having Olivia and Louise. And after I had her, I lost the weight, I got myself together, and I became super mom. That being said, because of what I had been through, emotionally distant from my children, and my children did pay the price for that. I masked a lot. I kept everything in, and because I had married her father, I then had to deal with his family on a regular basis, the same people that had forced me to lose my child. And so then I masked, I put on a happy face, I took care of family celebrations, and every time I did that, I pushed all my anger and my grief and my shame deeper into my pores and into my soul. And it became harder to be real and harder to really to relate to people. So had the 2 kids, lived my life, thought about her every day. Every day. A birth mother never forgets their child they lose through adoption. And it breaks my heart every time I hear an adoptee ask, does my mother think of me? Because truly, truly, every birth mother thinks of their child every day. Anyway, so living my life, keeping emotions down, never telling a soul what I had been through, and how I kept traumatizing myself by dealing with it, or dealing with these people that had been so awful to me. And as every year passed, I thought, I knew I couldn't go searching, because that would be wrong. They told me, no, don't ever do that. And you're not deserving of it. I felt I wasn't deserving of her. So I didn't go looking. And I thought, if she goes looking, 30, by 30, she'll find me. 30 came and went. So I thought, we're done. I'm moving on with my life. My life will be like this. I will stay broken, and I will never know her. And then things happen. So now I'm going to pass it over to this.
I was going to say, my next question was, okay, so what was the defining moment?
The defining moment of the find?
The defining moment that started the turn, and I think you're handing the baton to your daughter, so I think she's going to tell us.
Her start.
So I was adopted in a closed state, so I didn't have access to any of my records. I didn't know names or anything. So I thought about writing a letter. I really wanted to let my birth family know, I was alive, I was okay. So I, in mind at 18, I decided, you know what, I'm going to reach out. I'm going to find out if I can send a letter. And they were very difficult to get a hold of. They weren't very helpful, and they said there would be a cost to it. And at the time, like, I'm in high school, I'm thinking, I don't really have a lot of money to be sending a letter or anything like that if I don't, if it's going to go anywhere. So time went on. I kind of thought about it some more. I looked into a registry to see if maybe I could connect, but I wasn't real hopeful with that. I didn't really know how to go about it. So continued on, thought about it. DNA kind of came up. A few years went by, and my father-in-law actually bought a DNA test for the family just to see what our backgrounds were. So we took it, and then we got the results, and my husband said, so can you match up with your family? And I said, well, no, that was the National Geographic one. That just tells me my ethnicity. It doesn't connect me with any people. I'd have to take like a 23andMe or an Ancestry. So he said, well, why don't you take one? So I did. I got one of those Ancestry ones, took it. Well, I sat on it for about a month because I was nervous, you know, sending out my DNA into the world. But I said, this might be the only way I can connect. So I took the test, got the results much sooner than I thought. And within a couple of days, I looked up my results and I was matched with 3 potential cousins. I sent like a little synopsis of the like the non-identifying information from my adoption file. And I kind of copied and pasted that. And I said, this is who I'm looking for. Do you know anybody in your family who that could be? And one came back and said, no, we have no idea. And then one never responded. And the third one ended up being a first cousin of my birth father. So I guess she reached out to them and said, hey, I think your daughter just reached out. And then she sent me their email address. And from there, it was just emailing all the time, just trying to get to know each other. And I think that was in May of 2018. And just started communicating by email. As soon as we exchanged pictures, I could tell that I had found the right family, because you could see a definite resemblance, especially with my siblings. So
the initial communication was email only?
Yep.
So tell me about your feelings as far as picking up the phone and having an actual conversation. Were you terrified? Were you?
Well, I didn't want to go to someone's door or make a phone call because I didn't know what the other person would be expecting and I'd be interfering with their life. So I just wanted to like send an email or a letter so they could receive it and then figure out what they wanted to do with it. I never did any research for finding my family. I just wanted to send the letter and I did it. And I just thought either they read it and they talk to me, or they read it and they don't, but I just needed to do that. I didn't think any further ahead. So everything else was just kind of going by the seat of my pants, just going with it. Just as it came, it just kind of worked out.
And Linda, what did you think? What was your first reaction? Share that with us.
My first reaction, of course, was shock and whoa. She sent it as soon as I got it. I sent the email immediately, but then I said, I have to process. So I have to go dark for a while. And that in the very beginning, quite often that would happen. It would get too overwhelming and I would have to go dark for several days because it was just too much. It's the happiest times and it's the saddest times. And why is it the saddest times? Because I had never dealt with losing her to begin with. I had never done the work. I had never processed any of it. And so not only was I'm so happy to see her, so grateful to have her, but just horrified that I had, all that shame and guilt and all that, oh geez, it just came flying back. And the shame, the guilt. Shall we say it again? The shame, the guilt. And so then she, and you saw the little blurb in the beginning, she ended up being, I call her the birth mother whisperer, because I think this is a lot of the reason why reunions do not pan out so well. It's like you're like a wild animal. You have all these emotions that you can't handle, you can't deal with. And it takes someone who has a great compassion and great patience to deal with that stuff. And if you're not in the right headspace and the mother hasn't done the work, like I had not, it's going to be ugly. It's just going to be terrible. So she whispered away. I rode and cried. I was very into spinning at that point, and so I called it ride and cry. Get on my bike and cry and cry and cry and cry. And had not, I say again, no therapy, no nothing. And then so the greats were great, and then the lowers were getting worse. And they were, I was really happy, and then it was getting really bad because I was, the loss of her, but then I was the loss of me as a person. I lost myself when I lost her to adoption. I masked like adoptees do. I put on a persona to be accepted, to survive with the people I was surrounded with. I was not true to myself, and I wasn't me, and I didn't realize that. So then I was dealing with all of her stuff that I had lost, all my stuff that I had lost, and my family that was dissolving and breaking. And because I wasn't there for my children that I had kept, and I was blowing up the family, and it was turning into a nightmare, and it just kept ratcheting it up. And I could see how reunions fail. I mean, at every step, I could see how they fail because it was just getting, overwhelming. So much emotion.
And at this point, were either of you in therapy?
Not
when
yet.
When did that come about, and how did that come about?
When it got really bad, it got really, the lows just kept getting just terrible. I found lovely Rochelle, who is here tonight. This is therapy in action, gang. And she talked to me, and the lowest point was when I sat on her couch and I said, we either kill me now or you remove every memory that's in my head. I can no longer live like this anymore. I cannot do this anymore. And I was honest, that was where I was at. Rochelle, bless her heart, she worked with me, and we got into a ketamine program, and I did a 6-session of ketamine. Do you want me to explain what that is? It's used with anesthetics originally for animals, and it's a rave drug, but it's also a great way of disrupting severe depression. The way I received it was through an IV, 6 sessions, you go in, they pump you up, they do it. And how I describe what it does to your brain is it like takes all of your brain, throws it up in the air. You sit in the session and you let things float where they need to go. And it seems like it comes back in order so that you can deal with the emotions that you need to deal with at the time. And it's not all in one big pile. I could take the things that I needed to deal with and push them off to the side, and I could deal with them later, and the things I needed to deal with now. So that saved my life doing that. And Rochelle. We also, at that point, I started looking online. We found one of the first things I found was SOS, and I volunteered for that. I figured I'd be active because I've always been, if I'm in a bad way, go do something. So I thought, oh, I'll volunteer. And then that was enough. So then we started to find CUB, CUB, Concerned United Birth Parents. And they didn't have a lot, but they had I lived in Michigan at that point. She was living in Pennsylvania. The closest CUB support group was in Washington, D.C. for us. So we had to do a road trip to go to Washington, D.C., where I met Yvonne Rivers at my first CUB meeting. And then COVID kind of came. We were heading to our second CUB support group meeting.
Maryland shut down,
all the other states shut down. We're talking March of 2020, everything shut down, country shuts down. Louise said, why don't you stay here since everything shut down? I did. I was running from, where I was and what I was doing. At that point in my life, I have 2 personal lives at this point, right? My daughter was planning on moving to Japan with her family, and I was dealing with that, and I was sad about that, and I was saying, oh my God, when they leave, then I'll be here alone, and I'll just have all these memories with her, and I'll be dealing with this, and they will be gone, and I just freaked. And then I spent time with her, and she said, we just decided that I could see that she needed a mother. I needed to mother her. I needed a fresh start. And so I actually moved to Pennsylvania. I live 2 miles away from Louise. I've been here for over 2 years. That was great for us, but not so great for my other 2 kids. That was very hard for them and not fair. And as Candace has said, you can do 2 things at once. You can be doing great things with one and then failing at the other. And it's always this balance of you know, how do you work this out? Another stress of being a birth mother and dealing with that. Speak to other things with the reunion.
It's definitely a balancing act. Like she described, I finally told her a year or 2 ago, yeah, when we first were connecting, you were kind of I kind of imagine you skittish, like a horse was skittish. So I was like, just very careful. And because I had no idea about anything. I didn't know about the pain that everybody had gone through because I'd done no research. And as she says, we've all read from the same pamphlet. We all regurgitate the same information about adoption. And that kind of was still stuck in my head, that rainbow and unicorn and everything is good. And then to find out that she was in pain and she wasn't good, that really started to crack the fog that I was in. And I just knew that I wanted to help her through things because I saw that there was potential that there could be healing and it could be better. So I just was stubborn and stuck to it. And when she said, you know, you should just go away and go live your life, I just said, no.
That happened a lot, guys. That happened a lot. I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. And she'd be like, nope, we're going to do this. And she just hung in there. And it was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful
wow.
thing. And so that I understand how reunions have these misses. I completely understand it. And it's so fraught with so many just terribly tender emotions.
And like in the beginning, I made so many mistakes. I did what I thought was the right thing. And by doing that, I actually ended up hurting her instead of reassuring. Like I thought I was reassuring, I was hurting.
Should we tell them my favorite? My favorite was she would send me pictures of when she was little, and she sent me a collection. And in one of the pictures was her sitting on the judge on the day that her adoption was finalized. I took my phone and I threw it across the room. I never said a word to her about how hurtful that was or how devastating that was, but my phone took the impact of what, are you kidding me? And I didn't tell her for a long time about that, but it was rough.
But I found that when I stopped trying to think about things and do things the way I thought I was supposed to do it, it just worked. So that was where I just said, let's just go with it. Like things are working. Let's just don't fight it. Just see where things go. Just, don't think 5-10 steps ahead. Just take it one moment at a time and see where it goes. And so she kind of was like, this is a crazy thing to do. But then when we did it, it just worked. Just worked.
So we find that our reunion is being successful because we had 0 expectations whatsoever. I could never think of her other than a baby. She didn't grow up in my life. So when this child showed up at 38, it was like, what? So I had no expectations. She had no expectations. And so that was great. And then just the patience and the compassion and the kindness and the patience and the patience.
Well, in the beginning, we did a lot of communication by email because we wanted to get to know each other. So we actually made a friendship because we were adults and we were communicating and just sharing things. And we had a lot of commonality, and she made me laugh and a bunch of her things, and that hooked me in. But and then she kept saying, I want to know you. I want to understand you. I want to know everything about you. So then that made me have to think about things and do a lot of self-reflection, which I had never done. So that made me start to understand myself more by having to try and explain it to her. I understood me better. So it was a lot of realization. So the first 2 years was a lot of bumps and a lot of work, but then we found these support groups and they've been very helpful for us.
So yeah, and then to carry us through, to get us through was therapy, 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 therapy. And then we found NAAP, which wasn't NAAP at the time, but now is NAAP, and all of its wonderful happy hours, and Dr. Joyce, putting yourself together after reunion. And now we have First Families with Amber, which is a wonderful program. So thank you, NAAP, for all of those. We also found Adoption Network Cleveland, Betsy Norris's group, and we went to every speaker series, every a bazillion general discussions where I learned about adoptees, which is so important as a birth mother. You really need to understand their lived experience, and I learned so much. And as a birth mom, there's not a lot of birth moms in those general discussion groups, and I feel grateful that I could explain things to adoptees when things weren't going great in their reunions. They also, what else do they? Oh, and I'm sorry, some ladies are here from my birth mother group from Adoption Network Cleveland. So thank you, ladies. Most wonderful women ever. We also did, I know some of you did it, the ASRC, they did the Awake Influencer Forum back. Remember during COVID, we all did that, guys?
Yes,
that was a good one. Yeah, that was a good one. She found Twitter, Adoptee Twitter. I stuck with my birth mother groups, and I also worked with Catholic Mothers for Truth and Transparency, and I helped write letters to get Connecticut to open OBC, Massachusetts to open OBC. Speaking of which, we have filed for her birth OBC as of today in Massachusetts, because she can as of today. So yay. And I'm also proud, also with the Catholic Mothers for Truth and Transparency, my 175-word essay has been sent to the Vatican for the Pope and his friends to look at. So, whoop, yay.
Wow.
But all of that and therapy and talking is how reunions are successful and work. It's not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. It's the worst of times. It's the best of times. It's all that. It's all that. And we've learned so much from all of you guys. Catherine, Candace, your books, Peter, every time you talk about what goes on in Australia, we learn so much. Australia is so far ahead of us in this country with adoption. And I learned so much in my birth mother groups that I attend. The new moms that are dealing with these open adoptions is a new kind of holy hell that only the devil could have thought of. My heart breaks for them every time I chat with them. There's got to be a different way, and we hope that in the future that there will be a lot less adoptions, perhaps no adoptions, only legal guardianship. We'd love for adoptees, or at that point, if there were no adoptees, but for all children to have their original birth certificate with their original name, with their original heritage, with their original medical history, and that stays with them for their life. That's never removed from them. We need to stop commodifying children. We need to stop making it an industry, a multi-billion-dollar industry. There's so much that can be changed in the adoption world. And I think we need to look at countries like Australia. We need to look at ICWA and follow that. And we need to support whatever is going on with the Supreme Court with ICWA in this month. Everyone keep their eyes on that. Yeah. Other things about the future? Yeah. But it's not, this has been a very, very hard road, but a grateful road. I have met some of the finest people I've ever met in my life in this world, and I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. I'm grateful for my children who have stuck with me and supported me. They have gotten, this has been hard times for them. This has been very hard times.
Yeah, I think sometimes that's one thing that we have been talking about for the last couple of months is the kept siblings. Yeah. And we need more discussion on that. We need more dialogue. We need more research on that. We need to discuss that more. I had that similar thing when my kept daughter came up to me one day and made the remark, but nobody asked me. And she says, "What about me? What about me?" And all I was thinking was, this isn't about you. That was the wrong answer at that time. But I kept thinking, well, this isn't even about you, and how wrong I was, and how she showed me that, we have our own issues, our own concerns, our own emotional distress, and we need to be recognized as well.
Right.
We lost someone too.
Absolutely. But when I was in the beginnings part of this, my brain was just focused on this because it was all I could handle. I was dealing with her and me and myself falling apart. So, dealing appropriately with the rest of the world was not happening.
Yeah. This is just, I'll tell you guys, I'm so touched by your story, because here we are, you're showing us, telling us how reunions can work. It is, they are work. That's just it. They are work. And it takes commitment, and it takes, courage, and you have to be tenacious and keep pushing through. And thank God you had a daughter that wasn't going to give up. And how that relationship since 2018 has evolved into this beautiful mother and daughter reunion, that here you are supporting the adoption community through your losses and through your heartaches. And here we are. And it all comes down to, you both said it very well. Community, staying engaged in the adoption community, and continuing to share your story and add your voice. Therapy. We can't get enough of that, right? And how important that is to have the right kind of therapist for reunion. It can't just be anybody. How important that is, and doing the work. And guys, I want to tell you, they did their homework even tonight for happy hour. So you're going to be receiving an email, because this is really great. They talked about support groups, how Cub has been instrumental in their relationship, and the ANC, and also NAAP. So they have made these wonderful sheets that we're going to share with you about support groups, about other adoptee voices. And we have TikTok accounts that you can follow in the adoption community if you're interested in doing that, if you're a TikToker. And they've listed some other online resources, podcasts, adoptee merch. By the way, adoptee merch. Sweet. Isn't this great? And then they also recommended certain books that I'm sure most of you have already read yourselves, but there's a whole list of adoptee recommended books, and then some additional recommendations. So I want to thank both of you for that, because this is a beautiful list to put together. And I think there's so many takeaways from tonight, and we're just blessed to have you on. So this is just great. This is great. And you guys have been coming to Happy Hour for forever.
Yes.
And then we finally got to meet in person at Cub.
Yes, we did.
That was pretty sweet to meet so many of you that, I see on here on a regular basis. So it was really cool. But we're just so thankful for the two of you and the work that you do in the community. And it's just great. So I do have a question for Louise. So going back to reunion, because we've got plenty of time. I want to talk to you about. So when you found out your mom married your birth father, I would like a reaction to that.
Well, the initial email address I got, I didn't know if it was my birth mom or if it was the wife of my birth father who had given her email address to the cousin, because it wasn't very clear on the email from the cousin through the app and Ancestry. So when I sent the email, I wasn't sure who I was talking to. But then when they responded that it was they were together, I said, oh wow, I got both all together. I don't have to do more searching. It's like easy. And then I found out I had siblings, and I was not expecting that either. Like I said, I had done no research and I had no fantasy or anything at all. And so all of this was just blowing my mind.
Yeah, all you knew that this was your mother, those were your siblings, that's your father.
Yeah.
This is my family.
Yeah, and that was the first time, except for my son, where I saw someone that looked like me. Because like I had never seen anybody that looked like me. I have an 8-year-old. So when he was born, he looked like a little mini me at first. So it was so weird to look at him and sort of see some resemblance of myself. And then when I found my birth family, I was like, holy crap, I can see a definite family resemblance. This is weird.
Put the picture.
Oh, I can try. Hold on.
She's gonna show you a picture of what her and her siblings look like.
Oh, okay.
You'll see it.
Hold on. I gotta figure
She's
out
got it. But yeah, it was super fun to meet Marcie in person, you guys. Very, very fun.
We had a good time.
We did. We did. They're going up there.
Oh, wow.
So I did get their permission, and can you see the resemblance?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's
Beautiful.
about 6 years between all of them. 6. Yeah.
And how is that going, Louise, with your siblings?
We're getting to know each other. In the beginning, hold on, how do I stop sharing?
I don't know.
Stop now.
Nope. There we go.
Sorry. Yeah, in the beginning, it was more getting to know mom and helping her through kind of all the emotions and stuff. And so we didn't spend a lot of time together. I'm hoping in the future that we get to spend more time. My brother now lives in kind of Michigan, Philly kind of area. So we're in between. So on his way back and forth, he stops by, and it's nice. I get to see him. So get to see him and his fiance. So it's nice. It's nice.
And your birth father?
He's in Michigan.
He's in Michigan. We started out talking in the beginning, and then he kind of petered out a bit, and the communication has not been great. So that's kind of not happening right now.
But it's also interesting to add when you say something like that again, we're talking about someone who's walking in brand new on the first floor with zero information except, oh, wow, here's my daughter.
Yeah.
What do you do with that?
Yeah.
So those emotions are going to go all over the place. You're going to be a mess. You're going to be confused. You're going to be scared.
It was weird because in the beginning, he was all excited and happy, and he wanted to tell everybody, oh, my daughter's here. Meanwhile, she was very private, and she didn't want to share anything, and I could see her cringe every time. And I did offer to wear a bag on my head so no one would see me or recognize or think that I'm, one of my siblings or something. So, but she said, no, absolutely not. But I did offer because I wanted to make her more comfortable in whatever way I could.
Yeah. I'm a completely private person because of what I had been through. And so I don't even do socials. Like, you'll never see me on socials. And he was telling everyone that she was in our lives while I had never told anyone. And it was like, oh, my secret's out. Oh my God, my life's blowing up. My secret's out. Oh. So yeah, it was pretty bad. That's pretty bad. And yes, we did have an experience where we went to a little place, and one of my daughter's friends was there, and this woman, she had changed a bit, and she kept looking at us and kept looking at us. And finally she walked up and she said, Mrs. Rebele? And I went, yes. And she said, that's not Olivia. And I said, no, it's not. It's not Olivia. And so at that point I had to tell this very wonderful young woman the whole story in a parking lot. My life was like, I'm sure I was, she said I held it together, but my brain was going, and yeah, that was something. Yeah.
So what's one piece of advice from each of you that you would like to leave with our group for those that are beginning or even having a difficult time in reunion? A good starting point.
Try not to build up too many expectations or fantasies about how you think it should go. And try and have some kindness and compassion for both yourself and the other person. Patience, definitely patience. Just be patient. Because even if you think the door's going to close, there's been a few times where I thought the door had closed, but I just stuck around and waited and kind of every once in a while checked in, and then eventually the door opened back up. So, you know,
no's never no.
Yeah.
Yeah, no's never no. And tell us about your relationship today. Okay, so you are in each other's daily lives. You know, for those in the audience that don't know anything about you, you travel together, you go to retreats and conferences together.
Well, that was our first and only.
That was your first one, yeah. And then you're coming to Louisville in March.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. We're gonna see you again in Louisville.
You better get that cheap ticket.
Yeah. Well, we've still got some discounted tickets available. So so yeah, you're in each other's daily lives, correct?
Yes.
But it is work. You got to work.
Yeah.
And you're still working at it, right?
Got to work. Yeah.
Communicating each day, what's working, what's not working.
And Marcie said it beautifully when we were at the retreat. You said we're never healed.
Mm-mm.
We're never healed. This is an ongoing journey, and we need to be aware of that and stay on top of it, and don't let those little naughty voices say bad things to you in the back of your head in those quiet moments.
I agree. I think that's just so important, because I myself thought, I was looking for closure and some understanding. And when I realized that, through therapy and through doing the work, that it's never over. It's just, we need to learn the coping skills. We need to learn how to manage our trauma, how to manage grief and loss. That's what we need to learn. And once you get to that point of acceptance, I think then you have something to build on.
Absolutely.
That if you can't get there, then you're going to be treading water.
Yeah. And it is work. It's just work. It's just work. And
it's not fair. It's not right, but it is. Yeah.
We talk a lot about just things, because especially after like one of these happy hours or after cup, it opened up so many new conversations and new ways of thinking about things. So just being open to talking about your experiences and just being honest and open.
Yeah. And if you're a mom, I say this to my birth mom groups, and Rochelle helped me get there. If you're a mom, act like a mom. Be a mom. Mm-hmm. Do what you're supposed to do to be a mom. So I'm doing the work so I can be a mom.
Well, we're so proud of both of you. We appreciate, again, what you're doing out in the community, and keep talking and keep sharing. We just, I'm just real excited that we've had this opportunity to get you on a happy hour.
Well, we're real happy we could fill in since you couldn't have anything else.
Well, like I said, I said that at the retreat. I was like, I got to get these two on there, but when are we going to do that? So, but it's just been a real exciting to have you guys here and to hear your story and know more about it and share it with the group. So what we're going to do right now, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. This will end the recording presentation. I'd like to